capital in Jerusalem. A lot of the religious Jews thought of this as blasphemy. But they actually did it. And then there was a convergence, and there was a faction, really radical faction, that had this plan to eliminate Christianity. And this is going to sound so horrendous, and I have trouble believing it.
Hold on right there, Ben. Ben, hold on. Let me ask you to pause. We'll come back. We have to take a break. We'll come back and pick up that thought and find out about that. Eliminating Christianity. Very interesting. Lots already on the table here. My guest is Benjamin Fulford, the former Asian Pacific Bureau Chief for Forbes magazine, who has just a stunningly provocative piece up on the site written by Dr. Henry Macko, Ph.D., who interviewed Ben at great length. You'll see it up there in featured stories on the left-hand side of my home page, so by all means take a look. Another story under that written by Ben Fulford, The Secret History of the Freemasons in Japan as well. Be back in a minute. Okay, back with Benjamin Fulford, live from Tokyo. He, by the way, has published 15 books written in Japanese with cumulative sales running at over 500,000 copies. He's got his own weekly 2-hour television program over there, appears frequently on numerous other nationally broadcast programs in Japan, and has regular columns in a variety of best-selling Japanese magazines. My guest, Benjamin Fulford, lucky to connect with him at Showtime. We couldn't get through to his landline, which I had a hunch might be the case. These controversial subjects, one never knows who might be playing phone games. But we have him on the line right now. Go ahead and tell us then what this story about abolishing Christianity is about. Is that about the new New World Order religion?
Yes. Well, you know, what I first got wind of was a plan to kill Asians, reduce the population of Asia. They told me once I was invited in that they had a plan to reduce the population of Asia.
Ken, when you say, excuse me, Ben, but when you say they invited you in, who was they and okay. What were you in?
What happened was, I interviewed Heizo Takanaka, the former Japanese finance minister.
Mm-hmm. What year was this approximately?
This year, in fact.
Okay.
I hit a tender spot. And, you know, I confronted him with having sold the Japanese financial system over to the Rockefellers, and then he sent the ninja who offered me this, you know, to join the Freemasons. Mm-hmm. And they offered me the job of finance minister.
If I might interject here, please explain what it is. Most Americans, the most listening in Canada right now, or wherever they're listening around the world, won't understand why or how the Rockefellers are so heavily entrenched and powerful in Japan, when in point of fact the Rockefellers, I guess, own much of Japan and have since World War II. So tell us a little bit about that background, if you would.
Okay. Now, the Rockefellers, you have to understand their real influence. It's sort of like everybody outside of America seems to know how powerful they are, but they try to hide this fact from their own people. Mm-hmm. You've got to go back to the very first Rockefeller. I had to go back to 1918 editions of Forbes magazine to figure this out. But
to John Rockefeller?
He was worth about $250 billion in today's money. Mm-hmm. And the 10 richest people controlled about 70% of the money supply. This is just before they took over the financial system instead. And what they've done is they've hidden it all through a series of charitable foundations. There's over 200, 300 foundations. Mm-hmm. And they use this to finance universities, to finance research. And so they control through money, and they hide it through these foundations. So if you do a check, it seems that David Rockefeller is only worth $3 billion or so, but that's because the rest of it's hidden in these charitable foundations.
Okay, name a few of them. Just give us a few.
Well, the Rockefeller Foundation, for one.
Oh, sure.
There's a whole bunch. I mean, just look under Google with Rockefeller and Foundation, and you'll see so many.
All right.
So they're always considered the secret rulers of the United States and much of the world. So they are like the hidden patriarchs of this secret government.
Okay, how do the Rockefellers on the planet stand up to the Rothschilds?
Well, there is an alliance and a split as well. The Rothschilds originally set the Rockefellers up to, they helped them monopolize oil, and What happened, though, is the Rockefellers got very strong, and they became the more dominant partners in the whole enterprise. But Europe is still basically controlled by the Rothschilds. The head of the Rothschild side of the clan is Philip Rothschild in London.
Mm-hmm.
And there is another group that controls France, Belgium, and Holland, which is the Grand Lodge of the Orient in France. There's another branch of the Rothschilds. There was a German branch of the Rothschilds. They've kind of laid low since Hitler was purged. But you have to think of it as like royalty. Royal families interbred with old financial families. Mm-hmm. And they interbreed with each other, and they keep control that way. And the Freemasons are one of the secret societies they use to control, European society and North American society.
Who uses the Freemasons, the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers? Or
they both do.
Okay.
They both do. And they also control Mossad and the CIA, as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people in the CIA think they're working for the United States of America, and they do not think they're working for robber barons. But the reality is they are working for robber barons. So that's how the people look at the United States. They look at it as an enclave controlled by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers.
Okay, and how did that extend to Japan? By virtue of the victory in World War II?
Yes. And so, it ceased being a Rothschild sphere of influence and became a Rockefeller sphere of influence. But you understand, the Japanese were pretty independent before World War II, but they had close relations with the Rothschilds who originally financed their modernization.
They also pushed the Japanese to engage in the Russo-Japanese War, did they not?
Yes, absolutely. They armed them for it, and they helped them, and it was a very successful venture.
Mm-hmm.
And the Japanese have a deep gratitude as a result. And to this day, they have very friendly feelings.
Okay, very good. All right, let's pause on that, and we'll come back and find out about the eradication of Christianity on the planet and the Masonic influence being, of course, I guess, employed at the behest of the Rockefellers and or the Rothschilds. So we'll explore that. My guest is Benjamin Fulford, who has a dynamite article up there, courtesy of the superb, I call him brilliant writer, Henry Macko, Ph.D., who did a lot of research on this and interviewed Ben at great length and posted the article, and we were very honored to have it. You'll see it up there in Featured Stories. Chinese Secret Society challenges Illuminati. Be right back with Ben Fulford in just a minute. Okay, back with Benjamin Fulford. Read the article by Dr. Henry Macko, Ph.D. Chinese Secret Society challenges Illuminati. And then read the article by Ben Fulford right under that in the featured story box at Rense.com. Click on Ben's name, go to his own website in English. It's a Japanese site, of course, but he's got one for all of us folks as well. Okay, the plan to eliminate Christianity. Now, you mentioned how the Rothschilds and the Zionists set up their Jerusalem and their Middle East.
Right. So what they did was they tried to make the Bible prophecy come true.
How so?
Without the intervention of God. In other words, they did it. It wasn't any sort of divine intervention.
Okay.
So they are God.
All right.
They consider themselves to be as powerful as God. There is no God. They are the equivalent on earth.
So they're atheists.
They are the descendants of Babylonian tyrants.
Gotcha. All right.
And so one thing I've been hearing, and this is what disturbed me when I was invited to join, is that they really did plan to reduce the world population by several billion people.
Well, this goes back to Global 2000, but one more word about this severely atheistic organization, which is using organized religion to hide behind, as they always have. It's not a big surprise. And, of course, that leads to all kinds of difficulties, shall we say. But it's an interesting thing to know. Okay. Now, you were invited to join the organization. A Rockefeller ninja was sent to make you an offer you couldn't refuse.
Right.
But you decided not to accept.
Yes.
And how did you decide not to accept? And let's just hear. We have plenty of time, so
okay.
You get the offer, and what happened?
Well, the next day I get contacted by a gentleman who says he represents a Chinese secret society.
The very next day?
The very next day.
And how did that person know to contact you the very next day? How did you determine later on that he or she might